Hey, what's happening, everybody? It's your old pal, Mr. Butter, coming back at you again. Today, I want to get into a pair that I think is one of the coolest collabs of this holiday season. If you're into kicks and you feel like hanging out, then hit that subscribe button. Let's take a look at these Stash Air Max 95s. All right, what is happening, everybody? It's good to be back. I feel like there has been so much heat dropping recently. I know I have a couple more pairs in there that I haven't even gotten around to reviewing yet, but just stay tuned because between now and the end of the year, I plan on having a lot of content coming out. This pair really had my attention. As soon as I heard that the blue pack was coming back out, I was really pumped about that. I remember whenever these dropped in 2006, but around that time, I didn't have any money, especially not to be buying cool shoes. But I do remember whenever Nike collabed with Stash, who is a Brooklyn-based graffiti artist, and they came out with this blue pack. It was the Air Max 95 as well as an Air Force One in a similar colorway. The box doesn't really look like anything too fancy. It does have a blue line going down the center, so I don't know if that's kind of a nod to the blue pack. I don't know if it was late 90s, early 2000s, but it's definitely a familiar looking style box. The tag reads Air Max 95 SP. The colors are obsidian black and harbor blue. I went true to size with a size 10 in this pair. Air Max 95s do run a little bit snug, but for me, it's not uncomfortable snug. For me, they just feel like they really lock down onto your feet. I do have a wide foot, and I know a lot of people like to go a half size up, but for my preference, I really like the way these fit going true to size. I actually ordered these through Concepts well before the sneakers drop. And I was surprised one day I got an email and it just said, click this link and you'll be able to purchase. And sure enough, there they were. They had these and the Air Force Ones. I think they shipped directly from Stash. So I don't know if Concepts and Stash kind of work together to get these out or what, but I ordered these early. They were $200 US, which is pretty steep for an Air Max 95. For a shoe with this kind of history, and just because blue's my favorite color and I really love the design of these, for me it seemed worth it, but I can also admit $200 is steep for an Air Max 95, in my opinion. So the outside of the box is pretty boring, but whenever you open it up, you quickly see some of that Stash graffiti, and I think that's a really nice touch. I also like the fact that it's kind of hidden and tucked away until you open the box, much like graffiti, you know, under a bridge or in an alley. Some of the best graffiti I've seen isn't really easy to get to, and it's not really blatant out in the open. Of course, if you're a graffiti artist, you're not trying to do it on a well-lit main street where cops are going to ride by and catch you and that sort of thing. I've always liked looking at graffiti on train cars. That's where I feel like I get to see the coolest designs and, you know, the most talented pieces of work. Growing up in Western Maryland and West Virginia, we have train tracks that run right alongside of the Potomac River. My family and I, we always look at the train yard as we're going by and we're always like, oh, did you see that one? Look at that piece. But anyhow, I do like seeing graffiti. I mean, you might as well see art mixed in with life whenever you can. The outside paper did have this design on it, but then there was also just a plain white paper that the shoes came in. And one more little added bonus that we have this little, it looks like just a card, and it's got the same design that the box had on it. It's kind of brown, just cardboard colored, and then orange on the other side with a blue line going down the middle. But if you open that up, it actually shows you kind of the history of Stash releases or Stash collaborations with Nike. A lot of people might not realize the history that goes along with Stash and the Nike brand, and I don't know all the specifics of it, but I do believe that Stash was one of the very first artists to ever collaborate on a Nike sneaker, and since then, as you can see, they've been busy. They've been doing a lot. There's not dates on these. I think that the first ever collaboration that they did was on an Air Force One high, and I believe I saw that that was in 2003. But like I said, this blue pack didn't come out until 2006. And enough of my yapping about all the other stuff. Have a look at these absolute bangers.
Absolute bangers.
I'll admit that I am not the biggest Air Max 95 fan, but I recently picked up a pair of the All Maniere While You Were Sleeping Air Max 95s, and I've worn them a couple of times. They've definitely re-sparked my interest in this silhouette. And whenever I heard that these were coming back out again, I just knew without a doubt that I'd be going for these. I almost went for those Air Force Ones as well, but I've been picking up a lot of Air Force Ones lately, and that is not usually a silhouette that I grab a whole lot of. I used to always have a pair when I was like in high school and college, and I would just always keep a pair pretty clean and have them in my rotation. But in recent years, I haven't been wearing the Air Force One as much, but this year I think they really did a good job on the Air Force One, and I picked up a bunch of pairs. So this was the only pair from the blue pack that I wanted to pick up. Along with these Air Max 95s and then the Air Force Ones, Stash has also done this colorway on a handful of other silhouettes. The one that comes to mind the most is the Spiridon. It seems like Nike might be trying to revive that silhouette, and a lot of it probably started with the Jumpman jacks. The Spiridon is one of the silhouettes that Travis Scott pulled from to create the Jumpman jack. This pair isn't exactly like the OG pair, and I saw an interview with Stash where he was actually saying this is how he wanted to create them whenever he originally designed them. At that time, the technology just wasn't there, so he was limited to what he could do. But there are several differences. I think the biggest difference that I notice is with the laces. I've never seen another Air Max 95 that has these canvas loops come out from a hole in the fabric. Typically, you'll have another layer right here where we have this molded material. You'll typically have another fabric over top of that, and then these lace loops will kind of come up from underneath that top layer. Well, on this one, he used this ripstop, and then I guess they use heat or something to get this other material to kind of stick over top of that. But I think that's a really cool effect, and it's definitely not like the first pair came. I also think that the first pair had a much more gray look for these overlays towards the base of the shoe than what this pair does. But as I say all the time on the channel, blue is my favorite color, and I am definitely loving this pair. I will also say, as far as the leather at the base of this pair goes, and then these two layers of nubuck that we have working their way up from that, it is a very, very premium material, and these things seem like they were put together very well. I don't have any complaints as far as the quality control goes or anything like that. Along with the way they updated this lacing system, they also changed the tongue a little bit. For one, instead of having the Air Max logos up here at the top of the tongue, we get these little kind of Velcro badges, and it's got the Stash S, which is like two little arrows going in a different way. And then underneath of it, the Velcro that holds it on is just like an arrow. And then another thing that they updated is the tongue is actually like a little stash pocket. So you can just unzip it here at the top and then, I don't know, put a couple dollars in there, stick a gum, whatever you decide to stash in there. But I think it's cool for a Stash collab to also have a stash pocket in the tongues as well. Looking at the outsole, the tread is all just a hard black rubber up underneath of the front. It's kind of like a waffle traction. So we've all seen that before. We know what to expect there. And then at the midfoot, you kind of have this clear area, and you can see a lot of the Stash graphics there in the middle. It's a nice little touch. As we come up to the midsole, just like all Air Max 95s, you have the visible air units there in the front, as well as that big visible air unit in the back. And I really love this speckle effect that we have all over the midsole. The midsole is black, but then you have this bright blue kind of paint splatter all over there, and I think that's a really neat touch, especially when you consider that Stash is a graffiti artist. It just seems like it goes along with his style pretty well. On the toe cap, we have a nice dark navy blue overlay, and that feels like it's a very premium nubuck material. You do get a lot of back and forth motion. This blue is the same color and the same material that we have for this stripe going along the upper. The bottom layer looks like it's a black or else dark charcoal color of leather, and it's a very thick cut. It feels like it's a very premium material. I really like that we get all these differing materials and all these different textures and everything, and I really think that it goes along with that gradient effect really well. I just think these things look so cool in person. As we continue up the shoe, of course, we have that nubuck that matches the toe cap, and then we have a little bit lighter shade of blue in a very nice nubuck as well. Up from that, then when we get to the top of the shoe, we can see it's a ripstop material for this bright blue, but as I said before, it's almost like this protective layer over top of that, which is a little bit darker and more of a royal blue. It's like that's heat pressed on or something like that. It almost feels like rubber, but if you've ever had a shoe with a ripstop upper and the toe has a little bit of like a protective material, that's all this is. I would imagine that was heat pressed on, but it continues that gradient effect as you work your way up the shoe. And like I said before, on the original Stash Air Max 95s, this layer was another layer of material. It wasn't just this heat molded kind of protective material, but I think it looks really cool. I don't know if I'd have a preference either way. I never owned the first pair, and I really have heard a lot of people saying that they messed these shoes up because they didn't do them the same. But when you have the designer saying that this is what he wished the shoe could have been originally, then it's kind of hard for me to argue with that. And I just know, having them in hand and seeing them in person, they look phenomenal to me. So I don't really have any complaints about the differences between the old version and the new version. I'm just glad that we were able to get it again. And when you see this shoe, you obviously know that this is the Stash Air Max 95. The base of the tongue seems like it's a breathable mesh, and that's just in a black material, but it feels nice and soft. And then above that, we've got some black rope style laces kind of going through this accent that goes up the middle of the tongue. If you've had Air Max 95s before, then you're familiar with that, but it's in reflective, just like we usually see on Air Max 95s. And then at the top of the tongue, it just feels almost like a neoprene type material or something. It has almost like a satin type feeling to it, but again, we have these little Velcro accents that you can take off of there if you want to. On the right shoe, it looks like that little Velcro accent is the Stash tag, but on the left shoe, it's just that Stash S with the arrows going different ways. Also, while I have this right shoe in my hand, it did come with some extra laces. I actually think I probably will throw these in. These have little speckles of reflective in it, and I think that'll just add another nice pop to the shoe. On the heel, we have these areas of reflective material, and then at the top, in a royal blue color, it just says Nike Air. Our sock liner is black, and then down on our insole, we have more of that pattern, a lot like you see on the outsole as well. It just looks like it's graffiti style art, and then you also have a Stash arrow down on that. But that was a pretty quick look at these. I actually got out my While You Were Sleeping Air Max 95s too. I made the comment to somebody that I feel like with these two pairs of Air Max 95s, I kind of have like a dressy pair, and then I have like a streetwear pair. So I can wear these to work and with like khakis and that sort of thing, and kind of dress them up a little bit. These definitely have a premium kind of dressy style to them. And these, I just feel like jeans, t-shirt, sweatpants, and hoodie, whatever you think of, I feel like these are going to be really easy to rock. I definitely plan on working these into the rotation. I am going to spray these just because that nubuck seems like a very premium material, and I don't want to get it all marked up with water and that kind of thing. But I think these will look great with just your regular jeans and a t-shirt type outfit. Let me know what you think about this pair. Let me know if you preferred this or the Air Force One more. Let me know if you picked anything up from this Stash Blue Pack or if you just passed on it. We're getting to the end of the year. I don't know if there's anything else dropping that people are really going to be hyped up for. I guess we have the Velvet Brown Travis Scott Jordan 1 lows dropping soon. I'll be going after them. Let me know if you picked up any pairs lately, if there's anything that you're grabbing before the end of the year. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I appreciate you all watching. I'll catch you on the next one. I'm out.